Hey, everybody, it's Amanda.
And Rick.
And it's time for our evening Bible study.
Hold on. I'm making a reel.
It's with the Bible study.
Just bear with us.
Hey, everybody, it's Amanda.
And Rick. Uh-oh.
He's working on a reel, and it's just really loud.
I'm sorry.
He's got to do all the pieces for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what in the world am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hello. He just decided to get creative tonight. I have no words for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share the links, and we'll get started in just a second.
Sounds good. Are you having a good day? Hope you are. That's my connection with the people.
We got both Melissas popping up here today. Look at that.
Because we're earlier.
Is that what that is? Are you guys here because it's early?
We're in the 7 o'clock
is this
hour.
when people start getting or still functional in their mind?
So let me see here. Okay. Just bear with us. I'm not recording yet.
I don't know what he's going to record.
He won't record. Next. Oh.
Oh, no. I saw on Instagram that you had the stomach flu, Melissa.
You know what I just did?
What did you do?
I hit discard.
No, you didn't.
It's gone. Well, I had like 50 pieces. Oh my goodness, why did I do that? It's gone. It is gone. Credo Real. She gone. I hit discard. That was a pretty good one.
It was a good one.
Well.
Wasn't meant to be.
Oh, well. Don't hit discard. They mean it. I thought to myself, what is that word?
That was exciting.
Yeah.
Well, pay attention to the people now.
The reel that never was. Mm-hmm.
Yay. You got to entertain the people.
They're used to me.
But start over the whole Bible study? Because he recorded pieces of when we started it. So he can't. He'll have to wait till tomorrow if he wants to.
It is what it
remake
is.
It.
It is. I was trying to be a tech guy and wower, but I messed it up.
You did? Wow. It was great.
Yeah. I don't know.
You did good.
Too many options.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. When you just get started with something, it's very easy to mess something up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So we're just learning how to do it. We're just playing with it. If you guys follow us on Instagram, we've been playing with the reels, and so we're still learning how to do it. We are
the Beals
so
reels.
Bad at it.
We're family. I'm taking boots off.
It's just amusing. You know what I'm saying? So,
I took half the day off. My wife and I have been just loafing it today. For most of it. I got home about 1 o'clock or so.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not really loafing it because normally this is his full day off.
Oh,
but
true.
Instead of a full day off, he only got a half day.
That is true. Yep. Went shopping.
We did.
We went what do you call it? Discount grocery shopping.
Yes, we did, and you can't talk about that because that's gonna be a video.
I know that, but it's some good finds.
Yay! I'm so happy for you, Nicole. Yeah, Rick and I did a reel where it was about marriages that last. There's one boring person and one crazy person, and I don't know if you've seen it. So if you have seen it, I'm sorry for repeating it. But the joke was that I said he was the boring one and I was the crazy one. And you guys know that's not true. The crazy one is this guy, and I'm the boring
Crazy.
one. Well, crazy like you're the fun one. I'm the
okay.
I'm the serious one.
Fun. Okay.
Like
I yeah, you're implying to the people you find me in the corner with my eye twitching.
well, no, not that kind of crazy. No, it's the idea is they're like the
You better
fun,
leave.
wild one, right? And I am the dead serious.
He's getting
one.
the twitchy eye.
I
What?
am like serious all the time.
Mhm.
I'm just like I can do the pleasantries better when we meet people, but I am by far the more serious one.
Yeah, I don't do the what do you call it? The pleasantries. I don't do it well because usually when I first meet somebody,
Mhm.
I'm chewing on it. I'm rolling it around in my thinker, in my brain. Is this somebody that I'm going to know for years to come? You know, is this friend potential?
Mhm.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. We're still in 1 Samuel chapter 20, but we're going to finish up. We don't have that many verses. My wife and I actually discussed it. We don't know if this will go a full hour or not.
Yeah, we don't know, but we'll see. Are we watching the Super Bowl? Doubtful. Doubtful.
You know, in my youth,
Mhm.
when I was actually a kid, I loved football. I say love. I liked it a lot.
And I loved Snoop Dogg and Mary J. Blige, but I no longer enjoy those things.
Halftime show.
Yeah.
Okay, I was figuring out like where'd that come from?
In fact, if I'm being honest, my favorite singer for the longest time was Mary J. Blige, but I don't listen to that anymore. So there's really nothing to
We're talking about football.
Yeah, well, it's part of the Super Bowl. The
No,
important part
no.
of the Super Bowl is the halftime show. Like, I mean, I like football. It's actually the only sport I will, in fact, watch. But it doesn't really fill the tank anymore. You know what I'm saying?
I want it to, in a way. I want to like it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Does that make sense? Because when I was a teenager and all, I enjoyed watching football so much that I almost wanted
Mm-hmm.
to be on the field and play myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's how much I wanted to. That's how much I enjoyed it.
Could have been the quarterback.
I could have been.
Yeah.
I could have been. There was a time that I had a pretty good arm on me.
Mm-hmm.
I could throw pretty far.
Mm-hmm.
Only problem with me is I had no aim. As long as I wasn't shooting at anything, I was very impressive. It was when I had to aim, and then it was just like, oh dear. And
You still have nice arms.
thank you. And well, anyway, I don't know. Football's gotten kind of political, and it's kind of tainted it a little bit for me. Not to mention, born in DC, my team was always the Redskins.
Mm-hmm.
They're no more. They're what now? The Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
And I just it doesn't spark a fire.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
The old marching band thing and the Hogettes and all that kind of stuff, they're gone. And it just is not the same. So,
however, we do like the food, and I will be making guacamole.
Yeah.
So
I would say this is that it's the Packers and the Rams.
yeah, well, Ricky, it's not Packers. It's
I'm sorry. I saw Packers.
Yeah,
I saw Packers. Rams and the Bengals.
Yeah.
I really don't have a preference. I would say that, hey, I've never been to the West Coast. That seems like another country to me. Maybe the Bengals.
That's
just
what
because
he
they're
said.
closer. Just because they're closer.
That's what he said. But I said I've been to Cincinnati. It was my least favorite city I've ever been to.
Hey, man, we may have Cincinnati people.
And Ricky's in California. So I said Rams. So we'll see who wins. Now you know our votes.
That's interesting.
I'm Rams. He's the Bengals.
You picked it over. You made a parent thing.
We'll see who wins.
The better parent picks the Rams.
That's not what I said.
she made it parental. Like if you really love Ricky doesn't like the Rams.
But Ricky's
a
Packers
guy.
Ricky's Packers fan.
He's got that Wisconsin cheese flavor thing in him.
All right. We've got to
Curds
do the
and
Bible
whey.
study. We're almost 10 minutes.
I know we've lost all kinds of people.
Sorry, guys.
They're unsubscribing. What? This is not Bible study. What?
We always open with a little chat. usually while I get stuff together. But anyway, 1 Samuel 20. We're
There
going to
you
start
go.
at verse 34 and go to
Okay.
the end of the chapter, which is only 42.
Okay.
So we're only doing 8 verses. Now, we can do a whole hour on one verse. We've done it before
Yes, you have.
many times. But like Rick said, he's not even sure we can fill the whole hour with this. So we'll see how that goes. Not making any promises, especially since we already spent 10 minutes. But I'm going to read it. I'll give you a quick overview. We'll talk about it, and then I'll toss it over to Mr. Beal here. Is that good for you?
Oh, like we do every night.
Exactly.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. All right. 1 Samuel 20, starting verse 34, it says, So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger and did eat no meat the second day of the month, for he was grieved for David because his father had done him shame. And it came to pass in the morning that Jonathan went out into the field at the time appointed with David, and a little lad with him. And he said unto his lad, Run, find out now the arrows which I shoot. And as the lad ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. And when the lad was come to the place of the arrow which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan cried after the lad and said, Is not the arrow beyond thee? And Jonathan cried after the lad, Make speed, haste, stay not. And Jonathan's lad gathered up the arrows and came to his master. But the lad knew not anything, only Jonathan and David knew the matter. And Jonathan gave his artillery unto his lad, and said unto him, Go, carry them to the city. And as soon as the lad was gone, David arose out of his place toward the south, and fell on his face to the ground, and bowed himself 3 times. And they kissed one another, and wept one with another, until David exceeded. And Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, for as much as we have sworn both of us in the name of the Lord, saying, The Lord be between me and thee, and between my seed and thy seed forever. And he arose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city. So, this is the end of the little section where we are talking about Jonathan helping David to escape, because David had gone to Jonathan and said, why is your father trying to kill me? And Jonathan wasn't really 100% convinced that his dad was really trying to kill him, because he had already kind of worked a little peace agreement with them out before. And David was like, no, I'm pretty sure he's trying to kill me. So there's this feast that they were supposed to be at. And when he was at, David was supposed to be at the feast.
Mm-hmm.
So he asked Jonathan to help him, not have to go, make an excuse for him. And that he was like, and listen, here's the deal. If you make an excuse for me and your dad's cool with it, then, everything is fine. Then I'll just come and I'll know there's peace. But if he gets angry, then we'll know that he really is trying to kill me. Like, this is a serious thing. Not only does Saul get angry, he tries to kill Jonathan. It's this whole thing we talked about yesterday. So that brings us to verse 34, where we are tonight. Jonathan was very upset. It says he rose in fierce anger. He didn't eat. It says he was grieved for David because his father had done him shame. Like, he was just completely stressed about the whole situation. So what had happened was David and Jonathan, when they set up this plan, they'd made an agreement that 3 days after they'd made the agreement, which was going to be after this feast, Jonathan was going to come out into this field where David had been hiding and have a little lad with him shoot some arrows. And if everything was cool, he was going to say, so I don't even remember what exactly he promised he was going to say. He had this whole thing he was going to say. And if things were bad, he was going to shoot the arrow and tell the boy to run and make haste. Kind of this hint to David that he needs to go. He needs to run and make haste and escape because his dad was coming after him. So he did that, and they were alone. So they were able to give the boy the bows and arrows, send him away. And then David was able to say his goodbyes. So he came first of all and bowed himself 3 times to Jonathan. Of course, Jonathan being the son of the king, he was just reverencing him, not to mention the fact that Jonathan essentially saved his life. So he was very grateful for it. And then, of course, they had a moment where they were saying goodbye and caring for one another. We mentioned this yesterday. We'll probably talk more about it later. It does say that they kissed, which we all, when people read it today with a worldly mindset, if this is your first time ever reading this section and you read it in a modern worldly mindset, you'd be like, what did they do? But it's you really have to understand, and we talked about it before, but I'll say it again, that was the culture then. that they greeted one another and also said goodbye to one another. They, did a little kiss thing that they do. They do it in Europe. Frankly, they did it for many centuries in many cultures, and they still do it today in many cultures. It's just in our modern American culture, it kind of means a different thing when you say it. But you have to take it from their perspective and understand that it's essentially like they were just saying goodbye. They were best friends. They'd been to war together. They were soldiers. So you kind of got to picture two soldiers, like been in the battles, been doing everything. Their family, it's his brother-in-law, and it's like they're just devastated. But they have this commitment that they made to one another that they were going to protect each other and protect each other's families forever. And that was the commitment they reminded each other of, and said goodbye. And one went one way and one went the other way. And that was the end of that. So anyway, so that is the end of what we're talking about today. A little overview. I'm going to toss it over to this gentleman here. This is Richard Beal, president and evangelist. Well, president of our nonprofit organization that we have yet to announce the name, but it's coming. Or did we announce it?
I don't think we did.
I don't think we have yet. It's coming.
That's not the name.
No. That could be the name, though. Ah, Ella, I didn't even catch that. She said hit 3 days, shot 3 arrows, and the bows 3 times.
That's really interesting.
Good catch.
Yeah. Jonathan arose from the table.
From the table. Furious. I mean, his dad did try to kill him. That'd make you pretty mad.
Mm-hmm. Heard a preacher say today. Heard a preacher say yesterday. It was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday. Bible talks about, for the believer,
mm-hmm.
that we need to separate.
Mm-hmm.
Practice separation from sin, from earthly everything.
Yep.
But he made a point yesterday when I was listening to a sermon. I was driving. He said that where Christians have gone to a bad extreme is it's right for separation, but they have skipped over separation and they have gone into isolation. Mm-hmm. That's wrong.
Yes. That's a really good point.
We're not called to isolate. We're called to separate, and there is a difference. Mm-hmm. We're not to walk with the culture, but we are to affect the culture, share the gospel, be encouraging, be salt and light in this world. Mm-hmm. I say that to say this because sometimes people kind of go away from relationships. I think people don't want to be hurt. People don't want to be upset. People want to do this and that. And they kind of shy away from building good, godly relationships. It's right to build relationships. Now, I say that because I want to make a point to say it's good to have relationships. Sometimes you have a bad day. Someone who is your Christian brother or sister can encourage you, lift you up, and you can get through your day, right? There's a lot of blessings to having good relationships. And I say that because my next point, or really my first point, goes with verse 34. And I'm going to say, even though it's good to have relationships are tough. And relationships, if you're not careful, can make you pretty crazy. They can stretch you. I mean, Jonathan may have just been, drinking coffee and kicking his feet up on the porch watching the cats, but he's got a relationship or two. One with his dad that's a little awful, and then he's got one with David here, and you mix all that together with the drama that's going back and forth in the family, and Jonathan's not at rest and he's not at peace. He arose from the table, and I can almost see him just hop up from the table. Because with fierce anger, mm-hmm. he didn't go, and slowly get up and you know what I mean? Like a gentleman, he hopped up like, with fierce anger. I'm almost picturing a beast.
I mean, again, his dad threw a javelin at him and tried to kill him. So
yeah. And my point in saying that is that relationships can be a hard thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they can cause hurt and anger, which you see here in verse 34, because he says he was grieved for David. Okay, and he was angry at the same time. I think we made a point, you and me today, you and I today, is saying how a lot of these things that we feel and everything are very closely related. Sometimes when you're really
Oh
angry,
yeah.
maybe your anger can be caused by hurt. Sometimes people are very emotional, sometimes people will break down, tears and everything. Someone else will be emotional and they will snap and be like a snapping turtle. They'll be all upset and angry and everything. But
So Jonathan was one of the angry first and then sad.
yeah, what I'm saying is, even though they're kind of different emotions, they're so
Same root.
close
Yeah.
that you can almost see several emotions in one moment. Anger and grieving and hurt, and you know what I mean. And all this caused by relationships. My point is that it's good to have relationships, but be prepared. They can be tough. Okay, that's why you got to walk with the Lord. Because how in the world can you really have strong relationships where two people who have totally different points of view, totally different everything, how can these two people get along? Well, you need something or someone to be the basis, to be the foundation. Well, that's the Lord. That's why two people, if their foundation is the Lord, they can have a good relationship because you have a good place to start. You have a good place to start. A lot of relationships break up because there's no root, there's no foundation. Okay, when you go back to why are we even friends? No one really knows why. So people break up. People go their separate ways. But if you know that if you peel that onion back far enough, it's the Lord. And He's the one that joins us together, and you can stay together, and you can work everything out as long as you're with the Lord. It's like that Friends song, the contemporary song, friends are friends forever. If the Lord's the Lord of them. Remember that? I'm going back to 90s Christian music.
That does go back. Takes me back.
Friends. Never mind. It's a song.
Early 2000s.
Not a show. It's a Christian song.
So I was thinking about Jonathan's, how he must feel in this situation. Because Saul is his father. And Saul is his king. And Saul just tried to kill him. And yet he is called of the Lord to both honor his father and honor his king.
Yeah.
And it's funny.
It's shocking on two hands. It's shocking because Saul being his king, it's not so shocking if the king, or let's say like this, the government tries to kill you, but you still expect your father, your dad, to look out for you.
But
he's getting a double whammy here.
Here's the thing. He's helping David. And by helping David, he's still doing right. Because David he's still a human being, and he's still, the Lord also said, you can't kill people, and he can't have David's death on his conscience either. So helping David is fine, but he's still kind of, it's like this very kind of ugly situation that Jonathan is in the middle of, like you said, that he still has responsibilities toward his dad, and at the same time he has not just a personal commitment, but also just for decency's sake would need to be faithful and help David as well. So it's just he's doing the best he can in the circumstances, and you can see, I think, through all of these different chapters that we've been reading, that Jonathan is just a constant peacemaker. He's really working hard to try to make sure things are okay. And he's dealing with these difficult relationships in the best way he knows how. But you can also tell just from this first part that it takes a toll on him. He doesn't even eat. He's just distressed. He's angry. It says he's grieving down here at the bottom where we're talking about he's crying with David. Like this is a whole devastating situation, and Jonathan's handling a lot of it. But it's such a blessing to have. You talked about being a Jonathan before, but it's such a blessing to see that there are people like this that are willing to step in. That are willing to help people even when it's challenging and it's uncomfortable and it might even put you at odds with someone else that you are bound to, like just trying to make sure that people are taken care of in the right way. You know what I mean? In the most godly way. He's not doing anything wrong. He's doing right, but at the same time, he's trying to make sure he's right towards everyone. And it's very, very challenging to do. He's walking a delicate line. But Jonathan cares, and he's doing his best to make sure everything's well.
Mhm.
Kelly said, did David's wife go with him? No. Doesn't say that she does, and I'm assuming that she doesn't.
Yeah, I actually looked ahead while you were talking.
Yeah.
And she's not mentioned
Yeah.
anywhere. So I would say she probably did not go.
Yeah.
And if she did go, it did not include that in scripture. So
yeah, but I think it's reasonable to assume that she didn't, because
yeah, he's on the run for his life.
Yeah. He's been on the run since she let him down from the side of the house.
Mhm.
And she kind of lied about the whole situation. So she does come into play later.
Yeah.
But for now, she doesn't seem to be involved with this whole situation. So anyway.
But Jonathan is definitely seeking to be a peacemaker here.
Mhm.
It's really an extreme situation.
Mhm.
Blessed are the peacemakers.
Mhm.
It is good for us to seek to be peacemakers in this world.
Mhm.
Many times we won't have as big of an extreme situation as this, where people are trying to kill one another.
Mhm.
It may happen, but it may not. But still, drama is still drama. Whether it's family drama, whether it's drama at work, drama in the church. And if you're going to take a side, make sure the side that you take is on the Lord's side. Take the Lord's side and say, I'm going to be a peacemaker, and see if you can work to help reconcile people together. If it's two other people, try to be the bridge that reconciles people back. Okay. If there's an offense between you personally and someone else, let it go. Which maybe it may seem easier than it is, but give it to the Lord and really truly let it go. Be a peacemaker. You're staring. What's wrong?
I'm just listening to you.
Okay. I didn't know if I said something that gave you a thought.
No, I'll say something if I have something to say.
I know you will. And but I think I'm just gonna say it.
Say it.
And I'm brave. I'm gonna say it in a group that I know mainly women. But men are included in this too.
Brave or foolish?
As people, even Christian people, we can be emotional.
Okay.
Okay. And the Lord gave us emotion.
Yes.
So emotion in and of itself is not sin, but many times we let emotions run the car, steer the ship. We run on emotions, and that's when we fall into sin. Emotions shouldn't be in the driver's seat. But as people with emotions, sometimes we let the emotions in the driver's seat, and then we're just all over the place. And even though we know that we should be peacemakers, even though we know we should be focused on the Lord and forgiving and letting things go, usually those kind of thoughts hit us as we're driving home after we've already blown it. After we've already said things we shouldn't say and did things we shouldn't do, and made a fool of ourselves, and burnt bridges and things on the way home, then we think, you know what? I should have been a peacemaker. But it's after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you know why that is because we weren't spirit led. We grieved the Holy Spirit. We didn't listen to him, and we let our emotions into the driver's seat, and that car just went off the road, kind of thing. Emotions are not necessarily wrong, but you can't run on emotions. Okay. And if we're not running on emotions, we can be clear-headed, vigilant, sober minded, and we can be focused on the fact. It's a fact that we are to be peacemakers. Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I do see that Jonathan had every reason to go nuts.
Mhm.
You know, a lesser man would have done a lot of bad things in terms of how he was related to his dad, in terms of dealing with the whole David situation. Like a lesser man would have blown his top and made an ugly scene and did just, he could have done a lot of damage, but he didn't. He just got it from the table and left and didn't eat.
Mhm.
And you know what Ma Ingalls says? Least said, soonest mended, right? But then
Oh, she threw some Ingalls on you.
I got to throw Ingalls. So, but then in handling David, like he had already had a plan with David. He followed through with that plan. He didn't try to change anything or do anything ridiculous. I mean, he literally, considering all of the emotion involved in the situation, for him to just follow through with the plan, have the little boy do the arrows and all of that, and just say goodbye. I mean, that's difficult to say goodbye to someone you care about. That's tremendously difficult. And yet here he is just saying, you know what? It's in your best interest. Goodbye. I'll miss you. And moving on. I mean, he handled everything in the best way possible. And, you know, that just shows his character. And, you know, he had to have trusted the Lord to do that. I just don't think it's possible for him not to have had, it doesn't say anything about him, you know, having a relationship with the Lord, but I see the evidence of it in all of his behavior, because I just don't think any man in his flesh can do any of these things that Jonathan's been doing.
Mhm.
You know, I think that's just evidence of the Lord working in his life.
You can definitely see that this chapter is really an emotional chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we're dealing with some guys. You
Yeah,
know?
there are not very many emotional movies with men.
Believe it or not, I try not to be too emotional. I seriously, especially in public. That's why I give you the stone face. My wife always says, if you meet me, you know, don't be shocked that Rick doesn't talk, because those emotions that creep up, well, I switch them off, and I try to be a gentleman and respectful and everything, but I'm just trying to, you know, and after you know get to know you a little bit, like my wife and all, and we go in the house and everything, and then we're friends and all, and we're sitting around drinking coffee, and then I don't turn the emotions all the way on, but I'll put them on low. You know, we'll test it out. Yeah, like when you get in you know, on the stove or something, you just turn something on low. You're warming it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and after a while, maybe on the second dinner, maybe eventually, if I'm in a good mood, I'll go, you know, halfway. Yeah, we have to be friends for like 10 years before I'll turn it up to high or anything like that. I don't even know what I'm talking about.
I'm sure they understand.
But this isn't a, yeah. My thing is I try to keep my emotions held together, you know. But sometimes I'll admit it. You go through things in life that are just so extreme, you just cannot keep it in. Like if you keep it in, it's almost like you're going to have a heart attack or something. You just have to let it go. And I'll tell you something that I think that something that really gets me. If something's going to get me emotional, something will get me emotional. Okay, you follow?
Okay.
Goodbyes.
Oh yeah.
I gotta tell you, I'll be honest with you. I absolutely hate goodbyes. You know, I might not even like you. I might not even like the fact that we're going to see each other. But I'll tell you what, you like this? This is going to make me sound terrible. Sometimes I may not like seeing you coming, but I hate seeing you leave. There's, I know
what he means. He does not like saying goodbye.
I hate goodbyes.
He does.
I can read the chapter here and I understand a cause for emotion. I absolutely positively hate goodbyes. And I've always hated it. When I knew the kids would be leaving, I blocked it out and I just didn't want to think about it. You know, Ricky left. And I kept saying, he's coming back. He's coming back. I wouldn't even tell myself that he's not. And then I realized
But we all knew that he was.
he's gone.
Yeah.
And then
We just had a feeling.
And then you had Marquise, Brian, Brianna. They all started going. Even the cat lost the cat.
Mm-hmm.
Lady, Lady always used to drive me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought, man, look at the white hair everywhere. Brown carpet, white fuzzy hair. The vacuums, we were killing vacuums, sucking up all the hair from this cat. Now the cat's gone, and I look around the house looking for her still. She's gone. I hate goodbyes. So I can see emotion and everything here. So I what I'm saying is that yeah, they're men, but like you said, soldiers in battle and everything, it already stirs up emotion. And people, when you're really that close together, goodbyes are tough. Goodbyes are. We're just people.
Mm-hmm.
We're just people after all. But
goodbyes don't bother me like they bother you.
I know, but they do. They do.
I was trying to think of what gets me emotional,
but I can see if I can talk Bible for a second,
mm-hmm.
I can see when the disciples, when Jesus went to the cross and they had to say goodbye, how that must have grieved them. I can see why Peter left grieved,
mm-hmm.
while everybody was just discouraged and brokenhearted.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one they followed for years now, or several years, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
And then he came back for a brief time, and then they were watching him, and he ascended up. And the angel that was there kind of told him, like, why are you looking up? Christ is coming back. But I can already see why they were all looking up, because it's just like, when you're that close to someone, especially when you consider being that close to the Lord Jesus Christ, and you said goodbye on the cross, and then you get him back, and then he sends up again, and I can see, and I can also see that the Lord knows that the goodbye thing can leave you with an emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see that that's why the Lord said that he was going to send you a comforter, one that would come and be with you.
So you wouldn't be alone.
Exactly, because there is something. The goodbyes usually mean alone, and alone is a dread and an emptiness. And the Lord doesn't want us alone.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, he fills that void with himself in the person of the Holy Spirit. So anyway, I hate goodbyes. And I'm glad that once we get to heaven, folks, goodbyes are gone. Goodbyes are gone. Go ahead.
Well, he had this plan that he was going to go in this field, shoot the arrow, and have the boy run and call out to the boy. And it was like this secret code that David would know what he was going to do and what he wasn't going to do.
That boy must have been thinking, what is going on?
Well, it was perfectly sensible. I'm telling the boy, hurry up. Don't waste any time. Don't stay there. Let's go. And that was a reasonable thing for him to say given the circumstances. And so the boy, I'm sure he didn't think anything of it. But Jonathan I think it took great not peace of mind, but he was in a solid state of mind to be able to, in all of his grief and all of his anger and all of his sadness, do this in such a way that it wouldn't have aroused suspicion. You know what I mean? He's really trying to protect David and protect the situation so that it doesn't turn out dangerous for him. But anyway, so Jonathan followed through with his plan. I don't know if you have anything to say about that before I say anything else.
I tell you this, it's a maturity thing to follow through with a plan when you are grieving and angry.
Yeah.
It's a maturity thing. And also, I'll tell you this, it is something that the Lord does in you. We talk a lot about grace, that the Lord gives you his power, his strength, his might, his grace, he gives you the power to do what you cannot do otherwise. And have you ever done something and you look back on it and think, I was not even in my right mind. I was just quivering all over. I can't believe that I got through that and I was able to function. How was I able to function? It's because the Lord gave you his power and gave you a little push kind of thing. And honestly, the Lord works the same now as he worked then. He still worked in people's lives. And I do believe the Lord is with Jonathan here as he's making these decisions. And I know that because the Lord ultimately wanted to protect David. So the Lord was obviously using Jonathan as a means of protecting David.
Mhm.
Okay, so God is in this chapter. Okay, God is our protector.
So then we get to the whole situation where
And by the way, if you ever shoot an arrow like this lad did, don't do what I
he
did
didn't
as a
shoot it; he picked it up.
Well, I know.
He's fetching
You're right. He's a fetcher. He's a fetcher.
Mhm.
I tell you, but I'll tell you this. I had a bow and arrow when I was a young kid, and I took some archery at school. We had an archery unit, so I told my parents I want a bow and arrow. They got me a bow and arrow. In school, they taught us how to do it right.
Mhm.
Then, when I was alone, and when kids are alone, they do some foolish things. Alone, I decided to go out into an open field and take my real bow and arrow on a windy day. And for some reason, like that arrow was a kite, decided to just shoot it straight up in the air. That sucker went up and it came down, and all I could do was like, oh no. It didn't get me. But I'll tell you,
God's grace.
it was scary. And you would think the arrow would just keep going. But eventually it comes down.
Yeah.
And it comes down like a bolt of lightning. Don't do that. Don't do that. Anyway.
So after the lad goes away,
that's just my little help tonight for you.
You have this tearful scene.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they, like we said many times, they get emotional. And first of all, David bows himself and just being respectful of the fact that he saved his life. And he frankly risked his own life in order to save David's life. And by the way, Ella did mention also he bowed himself 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
That was another 3 that was mentioned. And then, of course, they just cried and embraced one another. And it said David did more than Jonathan. That says David exceeded in the King James, but that translated is the idea that he cried more than Jonathan did. And ultimately, David was losing more. I mean, David was leaving his wife, his home. I mean, he had to go away probably from his family. I mean, he was losing everything. So, of course, it makes sense that he would cry more. But Jonathan, even here, tries to encourage David. And he tells him, go in peace. We've both of us sworn in the name of the Lord. And it's going to be, the Lord will be between us, my seed and your seed forever. Mm-hmm. And so even in this moment, he's still trying to give him encouragement and comfort and try to help him to be able to think positively in spite of his circumstances. So I just think that, again, I know I'm focusing on Jonathan here, but it's just another example of that Christ-like behavior, that even though he's sad and he's disappointed and he's still got to go back and deal with his dad and he's got a lot on his plate, he still puts his own self aside. And that goes back to, remember when we talked about the definition of love in the Hebrew? I don't know if you guys, all of you guys were here to see that. I put a reel up in 5 parts on Instagram and on Facebook that you can see if you want. But basically, we took the Hebrew word for love, and I think it was from 1 Samuel 18:3, which was about Jonathan and David and how they loved one another. And it explained how it was the picture of love is God looking at man and committing himself to them with a literal nail. Like, it's just amazing how the Hebrew works. But again, that's the kind of love that it's that sacrificial love. It's just the way that Jonathan is. Jonathan is looking at David and he is committing himself to him in such a way that it could hurt him. He almost got stabbed with a javelin. It's a nail of sorts. So, but the idea here is just that, he's in the midst of all of the craziness, Jonathan still has the level head and he's still trying to make it functional, be encouraging, and do the very best he can to make sure everything goes as smoothly as possible.
Some random thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
all about what we talked about.
We're at the end, so say whatever random thoughts you got.
Go in peace.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, it should always be on the Christian's mind.
Mm-hmm.
It should be what we're striving for.
Mm-hmm.
To arrive in peace while you're together, to be peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's time to depart, to go in peace. If we're believers, we are connected to the Prince of Peace, who has given us his Spirit. And if you're obeying the Spirit, part of the fruit of the Spirit that comes out of the believer when they're obedient is peace, love, joy, peace. Okay. So really the Christian life is about peace. In a world that doesn't have peace, the Christian's life is a life of peace. Okay. It ought to be. We have a commitment here before the Lord. So the Lord was definitely in this. Two families that are connected forever. Okay. I like what you said about, because I didn't know how much we were going to linger in their goodbye and kiss and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we already kind of talked about that.
You did, and I'm totally fine with that. No, I do think, number one, culture thing. I do think that, I mean, not to think, I know that in some places in the world, they still do it. I mean, in some places in the world, we had a pastor who was a retired military, and he used to say how he went in different places. Yeah. And he said that when you go into these churches and all, they greet you and they kiss you.
The holy kiss.
I remember I had a missions Bible teacher in Bible college, and he was a retired missionary, and then he later in life he was a professor at the Bible college, but he tells tales of when he was on the mission field,
and he was in Korea,
and how he went into churches and how they would greet him with a kiss and everything. And he laughed one time and he said, "These lips have kissed lots of Christians." It's just,
well, if he was training people for the mission field and they had to be prepared for different cultures.
Oh, I know.
But that's relevant to what we're talking about.
But it always makes me chuckle to think that some of these cultures where they kissed would see us doing the handshake and they would go, "You touch hands?"
Exactly.
Hands?
Or even a hug. Like if you came to the South and people just attacked you and like get a hug by every single person when you walk in the building, some cultures would be like,
"Yeah,
what are you doing?" You know what I mean? Or even people in the northern part of the United States might be like, But it's just,
we've lived here for over a decade now, and I'm still not a hugger. I'm not cold-hearted. I'm not a natural hugger, but I have worked up to this in conversation. Sometimes I'll do this. I'll go. Every pastor that I've been around in the South now, when we're having a conversation, and because you gotta let pastors do the talking. I've noticed that their whole ministry is talking. So when you talk, sometimes the pastor will look at you kind of funny because you're not the talker, they are. So you got to do something. So my form of preaching is to grab the arm. They're doing the talking and I'm doing the shaking.
I can and will hug people, though when I first came here it was much more challenging. But it's not like my thing. I do that for them.
Yeah, I know. I will say this though. For the non-huggers, the COVID thing really didn't bother them.
Yeah, no.
Because I tell you, because hugger, yeah, I know. Because
Melissa, I know, is one of them.
Hugging has become taboo. Lots of times, I mean, just think, a couple years ago, it was the young crowd that would do the fist bump. Everybody would be like, "What? Fist bump? How young are you?" kind of deal. But now I see people like me with white hair, gray hair, doing the fist bump. A couple weeks ago, I was with an older guy. We were talking, and he didn't even do the fist bump. You know what he did? The elbow. Did the elbow. You ever done the elbow? That's weirdness. But anyway, it's just a greeting and a goodbye kind of thing, and not
cultural differences.
Cultural difference. But I'll tell you this: I don't even feel bad about it or think bad of it, because number one, cultural, and number two, you even brought up soldier stuff, right, folks? I wrote down in the notes to make sure I said it. This is life and death stuff. Yeah. This is. I mean, David could very well lose his life here.
Or Jonathan.
I mean, this is life and death. That has a when you're facing death like that, it has a way of moving you,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
to really when you put your eyes on somebody that doesn't want you dead, you see them in a whole different light.
More than
You
that,
know?
somebody who's helping to protect you and save your life, you value it.
Exactly. Sometimes I'll have a hard day at work. Nobody trying to kill me or nothing. But sometimes I'll have a hard day at work and I feel like everybody's out against Richard Beal, you know? And then I'll come home and I'll see my wife and I'm like, well, you're not. And I see her in a whole different light because outside the house seemed like everybody was just,
Against you.
yeah. And it doesn't mean that it really was, but sometimes you have those kind of days. But then you're around your inner circle, your group of friends or your family, your spouse or whatever, and you see them differently.
Mhm.
Hopefully, it's people in the church, because the church should be our inner circle as well. Okay, but like soldiers, like officers facing life and death situations, that's what's going on here. So I can see why they're moved to really embrace and have a heartfelt goodbye.
Mhm.
Okay. And I wrote, and I tell you, I've always said I don't like goodbyes, but I can see how you can be moved for that. And I don't look down on them for anything, for like kissing one another and everything. Because I'll be honest with you, back in December, middle of December, Ricky came for a visit,
Mhm.
and Ricky was leaving one morning, and I was going to work, and it was dark, and I was getting in my car and everything, and I was getting ready to leave, and Ricky was up in the house,
Mhm.
and I hadn't seen him yet, and I was going to work, and he was heading out right behind me, and they were going to Wisconsin, and and
He's gonna get emotional. He's talking
no,
about
I'm not.
goodbye.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I'm guarding emotion. But my wife said, and I'm glad you said it. You said, "Go in the house and hug your boy." You know. And I walked in the house, and he's standing there, and it just hit me. Okay, I hadn't seen him since he had gotten married, and that was like a year. And then I'm like, "Hey, it's going to be another year before I see him. It might even be 2 years.
Right.
Until I see this kid."
Mhm.
So I tell you what, he didn't even seem like he was into it at first. But I said, "Come here, boy," and I grabbed a hold of him, and yeah, I kissed him. And you know what else I did? You're gonna think it's weird. I smelled his hair. The boy, some
Well,
some
he's your
people,
baby.
people that are close to you, a wife, a spouse, a husband, your children, they have a scent.
Mhm.
Ricky has a scent that's a Ricky,
Mhm.
and I miss that.
Mhm.
His head smells the same now that it did as a child, a little kid. And I did. I grabbed him, I kissed him, and I smelled that head. And he was looking at me weird. And I said, "I'm still smelling, boy." No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. But I did. I did. Because I knew I wasn't going to see him.
Mhm.
And a goodbye moved me to do that.
Mhm.
And so I'm reading about two guys here. They're going through a goodbye situation. It's life and death. They're saying goodbye. And
Mhm.
it's a big, extreme situation.
Mhm.
And so I can totally see. In fact, I will say this: if they didn't respond similar to this, I number one, I think, well, they didn't really care about each other. And number two, I say, well, I guess it really wasn't that big of a deal.
Mhm.
But you can read the scriptures and see that you can see the emotion
Mhm.
right from the words. So there you go. There you go. So and again, don't think emotion is bad. The Lord gave us emotion.
Mhm.
We're just not supposed to put emotion in the driver's seat. Okay. But I tell you what, when I look at this portion of scripture, I'm encouraged to love people more. I see Jonathan, who truly loved people. You know, David, he loved people. He loved, and they loved the Lord. I'm encouraged to love more. You know, Saul, he can represent the anger and the hate in the world. And you can say, hey, there's a lot of anger and hate in this world.
Mhm.
Okay, but in the midst of the hate,
Mhm.
there was love. And I'm not trying to be all sappy. I'm
No,
still,
that's a good point.
but people will look around this world and they'll say there's a lot of hate in this world, and that's a fact.
Mhm.
But just like then,
But the light is the
yeah,
people who show love.
exactly. In the midst of the hate,
Mhm.
there is love.
Mhm.
There really is. So you can be encouraged that there is love,
Mhm.
and also be encouraged to love more. Okay, seriously, love more. I tell you, I honestly, and I'm not trying to make any statements or anything, but I truly do love people.
Mhm.
And the thing is, I want to love people. And I think that's the thing. People that don't love people truly don't want to love people.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to, many times you will. The Lord wants us to love. I think wanting to is really allowing the Holy Spirit to have his way in your life, because part of the fruit of the Spirit is love. So if you're yielding to the Holy Spirit, you will love people. And I think it's the Lord that puts it in our hearts to want to love people. And I honestly do. I wrote down this, and I'm pretty much done. I'm just rambling now, because somewhere out there's somebody thinking, I don't love anybody. So somebody's like that. But I'm gonna say
You're
this.
saying somebody's in the Bible study and they're hateful.
You said it. I didn't say it. But I will say this. If you're on the fence,
Mm-hmm.
and sitting on the fence, you'll get splinters. So you got to pick a side. Okay. I wrote down that loving people is the right thing. It's the right way to go. And here's a secret. Loving people is actually energizing, and it fills you with excitement, and really gets you moving.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes people sit around and they don't do anything. And they're just like, oh, I have no energy. I don't want to do anything. I tell you, when you love somebody, you get up. A mother who loves her children, even though she wants to lay in bed, will get up and make breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
A father, a husband who wants to lay in bed and not go to work, he knows he's got to provide for his family that he loves, and that love will motivate him to get up. The Lord wants us to go into this world and preach the gospel to every creature and minister and be light and serve him. If you love the Lord the way you ought to love the Lord, you will be motivated to get up every day and say, Lord, this day's for you. I just wrote down this: love and loving people, it's energizing and it gets you going. I'll tell you, if you ever see yourself down and kind of like an Eeyore type, ask yourself a question: am I loving right?
Mm-hmm.
Is my lover broke? Let me say that again. Is my well, how would you say? I don't know. Is
My love broke.
my love broke? My lover. That got risky. You know what I said. You know what I meant.
Keep going with the point, though. It was a good point.
Yeah. If you're ever down, you just have to think, am I looking at people? Am I treating people? Am I responding to people? Am I responding to God the way I ought to? Okay. If you love right, you will behave right. It is energizing. It is motivating. People will do a lot for love. People will serve because they love.
Mm-hmm.
People will go to war because they love their family and their country.
Mm-hmm.
People will go to church because they love God. People will serve because they love God.
Mm-hmm.
Love is a motivating thing. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. The Father gave the Son because he loved us. Love is motivating. Love is action. Love gives you energy. Okay? So if you lack energy, if you lack direction and purpose and motivation, if you sit around and you think, it's 2022, but it's just not shaping up to be much of a year, got no plans, got no ambition, start loving. And again, it's not like I'm saying work something up. Really, to love like the Lord wants you to love, you yield yourself to the Spirit, and God will love people through you. It's really not complicated. It's really just you getting out of the way and letting the Lord love people through you. Yeah. Say, Lord, just I want to be a blessing to people. Tell me where I need to go. Help me with the words that I need to use. Help me to know how you want me to be a blessing to people. And I will, physically, spiritually, whatever. I just want to meet needs. I just want to honor God and help people. What do you want to do with your life? I want to honor God and help people. And that will fill me with energy and great love and satisfaction and peace and joy and comfort and all that good stuff. And your lover won't be broken. That was something, huh?
Yeah. I have no comment on that.
Get that on a t-shirt. Wear it backwards. I don't know what that means.
All right. Well, we finished the
Oh.
chapter. So that's all for this. The next chapter, we'll see how David will begin to see how David fares as he goes on the run. And it's actually a very, very short chapter. It's only like 15 verses. So maybe, I don't want to speak too quickly, but maybe we can finish it all in one day, but we'll see.
Okay, I'm done. I'll pray.
Okay.
Lord, thank you for tonight. And Lord, thank you for our relationship that we have with you. I pray that we'll never take it for granted. And I pray that it'll grow closer and closer. I pray that here, as we meet people, know people, I pray that the relationships we have here on earth will grow stronger and deeper. Help us to build godly relationships. I pray that you would help all of your children just grow to love each other. And I pray that the church would be unified and that we would all know that you are the foundation and that we would grow closer to you and each other. Lord, I pray that we would truly, as a body of Christ on this planet, be salt and light. I pray that we would make a difference. Pray that you would use us in our life to really lead this world to Christ. We love you tonight. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. I'm glad your lover's not broke.
That's catchy, isn't it?
Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you all again for joining us. We have finished another chapter.
All I can say to that is, folks, I'm not scripted.
No, you are not. This is live.
I know.
There's no question about that.
I know. But I know some people write them like a word for word speech, message, sermon, lesson, whatever. And I've seen people, they just read word for word. I got a couple thoughts on the page, but I'm just, this is real, folks. But I'm glad
you made a good point.
My wife's a good editor and she'll edit that out.
All right. You all have a good night. Thank you for joining us. Come back tomorrow. See you guys next time.
Bye. Good night, folks.